Can you briefly describe your time in the military, like your training and duties?
Well, I graduated from high school in 1969. So Vietnam was going full bore at the time, and it was several years away from being settled. So went to college, actually from high school, graduated from college in December of 1972. And I had my dad was a Marine, and my uncle was Army, part of the 82nd Airborne. And so I used to go to some of the maneuvers with the 82nd with my uncle and watch them jump from airplanes, and I thought that was a pretty neat thing to do. When I graduated from college, I thought this is going to be my first and maybe only chance to get into the military. And so believe it or not, after I graduated, I enlisted. And so from there, went to basic IIT and airborne school, and just from one unit to another after that.
And where did you serve specifically?
Well, I spent a little bit of time, well, the different posts as that was Fort Benning, Fort Leavenworth, Fort Polk. Spent a little bit of time in Germany. But the vast majority of my time was spent in the States. So.
Okay. Can you describe what life in this community was like at the time you entered the service, like hot topics, big...
Well, when I entered the service, Vietnam was just ending. So those are pretty turbulent times. Late 60s and early 70s, we were going through a lot of cultural changes. The civil rights movement was very strong. Lots and lots of things were changing. Women's rights. Our society was changing a lot. A lot of our values were changing. So the younger generation at the time, the generation I was part of, that's where Woodstock came from, and that group. So we were the whole time there in the 70s and the 80s was tremendous turmoil in the country. So lots and lots of things were changing.
Can you remember what the hot car or must-have item was?
Oh, Mustangs.
Mustangs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you describe how your life changed when you got to boot camp for training?
Well, that's boot camp. Basic training actually was a pretty rude awakening. I mean, you lost all of your individual rights. Actually, you lost as much as your identity as they could take from you. So you became very much part of a group, very tight organization going through boot camp. The drill sergeants at that time were a little bit different than the drill sergeants are now. So things were a little bit rougher. Of course, everybody always says that, but it was pretty tough. I was actually married when I went to basic, and I got married in college, and so I was separated from wife and a new baby. For a long time there, it felt pretty isolated.
Did you learn any important lessons in your time at boot camp?
I think some of the things I learned, the most lessons I brought from that was discipline, patience, willingness to probably endure a little more, being able to put off the needs for right now, for later, how important teamwork is, friendship, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of valuable lessons that came out of that.
Okay. Well, after your initial training, what did you do, where did you go, and what was the military like?
Well, after my initial training, of course, I did basic training and advanced individual training as infantry in Fort Polk. And then from there I went to Fort Benning, airborne school. Graduated from there. So for a couple years I was part of a ranger unit. Went back home and was in part of the Guard. And so I did that for a few years, and then after about 5 years that I went to active duty and stayed the rest of the time. Most of that active duty was with the Indiana National Guard.
Okay. What were the big fears of the day? Like what headlines dominated the news?
Russia. I mean, when you talk about external threats to the country, it was Russia. It was actually it was Soviet Union, so the USSR, and that was for the military. That was the boogeyman. That's what everybody trained for. the United States built all of its military, from Air Force to Army to Navy, everything was to counter the Soviet Union, the Russians. Non-military stuff was, of course, the race to put the man on the moon and the space program after that, and then civil rights and all the other things that were going on at the time.
Okay. We're about to wrap up our interview, but before we do, is there anything you'd like to say or add?
Well, I guess for the young people that might be watching this, coming out of high school or thinking about going to college, or maybe what are they going to do in between, I can't think of a better thing to do than to pick a branch of service. You don't have to be in it 30 years, you know, but it's a great way to get your feet on the ground, figure out who you are, what you want to do, and serve your country. And so Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, it doesn't matter. If you get an opportunity to serve in the military, or have ever thought about it, I recommend that you do it. It's a great experience.
All right, well, thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank you. It's the little things in life that make the biggest difference. One of the little things I'd like to do is say thanks. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for our community, for making our community a special place to live. Thank you for the lessons you taught me tonight about honor, sacrifice, loyalty, bravery, esprit de corps, and commitment to a greater good. Doug Warneke, our community, salutes you for your service.
Thank you very much.